Aloha, everyone. My name is Shelby Morrison, and I am the Programs and Communications Coordinator at ikahi Mediation Center. Welcome to our Finding Solutions Growing Peace Brown Bag Lunch Series. Ikahi is a nonprofit community mediation center serving East Hawaii. We were founded in 1983 as a program of the Island of Hawaii's YMCA, and in 2006 became our own independent nonprofit. We empower people to come together, to talk and to listen, to explore options, and to find their own best solutions. To achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and trainings like this one to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. This Brown Bag Lunch series is every third Thursday, 12 noon on Zoom, Hawaii Standard Time. And you do need to register for each event individually through Eventbrite to get that link into your mailbox. So our next brown bag will be next month, and our speaker will be Sylvia Dolena on the topic, Show Up Powerfully at What I Bring to the World. That will be January 16th using that same brown bag Eventbrite link. Our next mediation training starts on February 28th, 2025. So if you're interested in becoming a volunteer mediator with us or learning some mediation skills, that is coming up, and registration is now open. At the end of today's talk, we will ask you to fill out a short or online survey, which helps with our grant funding for this free series. So when I put the survey link in the chat, please take a moment to give us your thoughts, but I'll also send you an email with that video link if you'd like to do that a little bit later today. So without further ado, let me introduce our topic, how to give feedback fearlessly and effectively, and our speaker, Joan Shafer, who is a management consultant and group facilitator with over 25 years of experience in personal growth, leadership development, and team cohesion programs. She has worked with corporations, NGOs, and nonprofits globally. A co-founder of Barrett Value Center and Chief Learning Officer at EXCO Leadership Group since 2009, Joan helps leaders and teams strengthen capability and optimize performance. She holds a bachelor's from Vanderbilt University. Take it away, Joan.
Oh, thank you. What a nice introduction, Shelby. Thank you. Aloha, everybody. And thank you for inviting me to do this. This is one of my favorite topics. I have a tech question. What are you looking at right now? Is there a string of pictures right across the slide, and I can't
We see
seem
your
to
slide,
move it.
Joan, and we see your picture, so it looks great.
Oh, it does. So you're not seeing everybody else's picture, right? Cutting off the verbiage. Okay,
No.
perfect. All right, great. So look, the reason I'm passionate about this topic is that it's a tough one. And what I'm hoping to do today is to give you some tools and techniques on to take and taking a topic that can be a little bit daunting and make it more manageable. What I'm going to do is talk a little bit about what do we actually mean by feedback, and then I'm going to get into what are the benefits of it, as well as what are the challenges of it, and then go into what mindsets can be very helpful when you're delivering feedback. And then we'll get into the how. How do you give feedback? I really don't want to listen to myself talk for an hour. And so I'm going to be inviting you to chime in. And I'm going to also ask you, please, if you're not comfortable talking in front of the group, will you at least have a piece of paper and a pen by your side? Because I'm going to ask some questions and ask you to write some things down. That's obviously for you and you alone. And I'm also going to invite you right now to bring to mind someone you'd like to give some feedback to. This might be an employee, a coworker, this could be your boss, this could be a neighbor, this could be a family member, but someone where you've had like a holdback, where you're like, oh, if only they knew kind of thing, but it's been, for whatever reason, you haven't done it. So that'll make this more real for you, if you will. Okay. All right, great. Also, just to reiterate, you will get a copy of this deck of slides. All right. So what do we mean by feedback? the whole idea is to increase somebody's sense of awareness about an action that they've done in order to get better for next time. I think most of us have standards of excellence, or we want to be great at whatever it is that we're doing. And living in a vacuum doesn't help. And when I say the word feedback, I mean, there's a charge on the word just itself, but I'd like to invite you to think of it in two dimensions. One is, what is the person doing well? And or what might they want to do differently next time? So what I'd like to invite you to do around the positive recognition piece, and this is not meant to be, oh, this is Pollyanna, let's be nice for a moment. I want to demonstrate, if you will, the power of this. I want you to bring to mind a time in your life when somebody appreciated something about you, where somebody recognized something in you that you hadn't really thought of before. Maybe it was a job position, oh, have you ever thought about being in sales? Have you ever thought about, instead of being in retail, that you should go into IT? Have you ever seen do you know how good you are at da, 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 da? So I'd like you to bring to mind that instance that had an impact on you. And I'd like you to unmute and share and get a couple of stories here about a time where you were recognized, you were witnessed, you were seen, and it made a difference in your life. I can see some people are thinking that's good. It could have been a minister, a teacher, a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, a boss.
I can share. Can you guys see and hear me?
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
Nicole.
Hi. So for me, when I first got out of university, I worked in child development and psychology with special needs children, and there was a she had every 6 months um, down feedback, and what she told me about my gift with children and my what I had contributed to the program really helped me develop a sense of affirmation that I needed, or maybe more just belief in myself, that I ended up using that and opening my own school. And so I think that had I not been seen in that way, or encouraged in that way, maybe I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that.
That's fabulous. And when the person said that to you, how long did it take?
Like, I had been working for a couple years, but in the field, but the way she saw me, the way she described me, she even once wrote a reference letter, just that I think she had witnessed me for a year. Is that what you mean? How long had I been in that relationship?
No, when she said it to you, did it take a minute, an hour, 10 seconds? When her actual communication to you?
So the meetings were about 15, 20 minutes long with each employee, right? And I was one of them individually with the supervisor. But I think, it might have taken seconds of what she said to me, or minutes, to what really mattered, what was at the core of the message.
A great example. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get another story, please? At least one or two other stories.
I can say something.
Hi, Tracy.
Hey, I had gone through a nutrition course, and then ended up going on and doing some volunteer work for them. And I did volunteer work for them for years, an assistant in the classroom and all kinds of stuff. And I guess it was probably 3 or 4 years in, but they have a big party once a year for all of the nutritional therapists. And there's an award given. And, I'm just kind of clueless. I'm still doing what I'm doing. And I got the award as the volunteer of the year, which was really pretty amazing. I think that's the only big award like that I've ever gotten.
And how did it make you feel?
I was kind of flabbergasted. I think I have a little bit of an issue with imposter syndrome to where I don't know that I really deserve it, but I did. I mean, I do know that I deserved it. I worked hard and I was good at what I did, but still to have to get up there in front of everybody and accept it, it was a little bit of a challenge for me.
And you did it.
I did it.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have one more story, please?
I'll share.
Hi, Shelby.
So I would say when I was first starting to help out at a nature center and sanctuary and trying to get people to come out and visit, I'd never done that before. So I wasn't really sure how to approach people. So I just kind of went out there and started talking and saying what I think I'd want to hear. And after after just doing this a few times, I was getting feedback. I got feedback from my boss at the time that was just kind of impressed, like, you made that look really easy. You're good at this. This terrifies a lot of people, but you did it really naturally. You're good at this. And I didn't know I was good at approaching people. I figured I had terrible stage fright. So that was really confirming, and it's made me ever since a little more confident reaching out and talking to strangers and things, because apparently I was okay at it.
Great. That's great. So one of the things I want to illustrate with this exercise is how in the matter of a minute of somebody giving you positive input, it can be game changing for you. And to not assume that the other people think or know that they're good at something, that it's crucial for us to get external input about ourselves. So, my picture of Joan is like this, right? Each of our pictures is like this of ourselves. And I think I know myself better than anybody because I live with myself 24/7, more than anybody else lives with me. But the reality is people see things in me. Their picture of me is bigger, and they see things in me, both, the shadow as well as the positive that I don't see in myself. And I want to have clarity about what that picture is. And so I would encourage to not hold back in affirming people about, you did this really well, you did this really well, and be very specific as opposed to good job. What did they do that was particularly good? Okay. So Shelby, I'm going to ask you, because I'm not going to be able to do it on screen because I'm in presentation mode, but I am going to invite everybody to participate in this next piece. And that is, what are the benefits of feedback? Like why bother with it? What are the possible positive outcomes from something like this? So feedback both from the positive as well as the critique. Would you all please call out, and we will populate your answers in this deck after the presentation and include it when we send it out to you. So why give feedback?
I have one. It counters the inner critic.
Brilliant. Counters the inner critic. What else?
Confidence building. Oh, sorry.
Confidence
building.
Keeps helps with motivation to keep going.
Motivating. Fabulous. What else?
So like from a behavioral perspective, the positive would increase the frequency or repetition of it. And then a critique might be a way to correct or adjust something that needed to be adjusted.
Yes. Encourage the person to continue what they're doing and do more of it. Well said, Zach. What else?
Just another way to say it is it keeps the process alive.
Raju, unpack that a little more. I'm with you, but I'd like to hear a little bit more behind your thinking.
Well, sometimes without feedback, you can get stuck at a dead end. But if you're getting the feedback, it keeps it keeps it moving, keeps the whole thing moving.
Right, so you know what people are thinking and how you're doing. Am I paraphrasing that accurately?
Yes, Joan, that's correct.
Okay, fabulous. What else? What are some of the other benefits?
I think it
Yeah.
gives you an opportunity to like make a correction if you're not really aware that something isn't working. If you don't know, unless somebody says something, then it gives you that chance to correct it and do it better or make it better.
Right, and you may not even be intentionally doing something that's off-putting, but having that recognition can be game-changing. That's great. What else? What are some of the other benefits?
It can also help if someone is blindsided by something. It can help put light on what's being blindsided.
Yeah.
Give us more of your picture. Mirabai? Oh, I saw her picture pop up and I thought maybe she
Oh,
had.
okay.
Hey, no, I'm sorry. It's me. My name's Paula, but I'm on somebody else's Zoom. This is Paula. Hi, Joan. I sat next to you at the last.
Hi, Paula. We were at the
Yeah.
training last week. Yes.
Yeah, I'll change my name when I finish this. A couple things about feedback. One is that it's a great if it's done well, it's a great redirect for people to put to shift their energies into something more productive and let them know that this is more value than what you did before. But also it incentivizes and also relaxes people into knowing that they're doing okay and they're doing a good job, and more of the same is encouraged. So it's a great incentivizer, and also gives people a sense of their value of the contribution to the organization, which is, I think, always really, really important. Like why they're doing what they're doing, and that it benefits the organization and it's appreciated.
That's great. And one of the things you just said, Paula, is that it removes doubt. How am I doing?
Mm.
Right? And you get that input and you know where you are. That's really crucial. These are all outstanding responses. What, if anything else, comes to mind about the
In
benefit?
the chat here, Joan, if we want to share some, so Lana says provides insights into strengths and weaknesses, could enhance performance, it could boost people's confidence and creates learning experiences. Charmaine also brings to light expectations. Patty says strengthens relationships, opens up mutual vulnerability. Julie adds, helps deepen relationships and add in interpersonal communication, both personally and professionally.
A plus, plus, plus. What, if anything else comes to mind?
Joan, when
not-
I was helps with blindsided, if somebody, helps with seeing something that's blindsided, I guess what I mean by that is some people are neurodivergent and some people are not. And so there's different ways of looking at things. So it could help somebody who is neurodivergent to kind of see another perspective on the other end and to be more inclusive of different aspects of people who are marginalized,
It's a great point. And I think one of the things you're underscoring is that everybody benefits from feedback. And not
Yeah.
to hold back, no matter what their
That's right.
situation might be.
Thank
Right? Okay. So, anything else? Okay. I mean, there are a lot of exceptional reasons to give feedback. So let's move to, why don't we give feedback? What are the reasons? What holds us back from delivering the messaging?
Don't want to seem overly controlling.
Don't want to see overly controlling. Good. What else? Excuse me.
And also rejection.
Rejection. Say a little bit more about that. That's true, but
Feedback takes a certain amount of vulnerability to share.
yeah.
And when you're sharing that feedback, the other person could come back and say, you know what, I just don't want to hear any of that. Mind your own business.
So you would be rejected by the person who you're delivering it to. You might get a
Correct.
bad reaction from them. That's great. Wonderful.
Another reason for not giving feedback has to do with fear of damaging the relationship.
Yes. Right? You can't take the words back after, can you? That's great. What else? What else holds us back from delivering feedback?
We have a few chats. Wendy shares anxiety over how the feedback will be received or the reaction the person might have.
Yeah.
Jacques mentions resignation.
Yep.
Yeah, some people also just don't know how to approach, like they get stuck because they don't know how to begin and what, they know what they want to say, but they don't know how to start. And so just jumping off that block is a big obstacle, can be a big obstacle.
Yeah. Very good one, Paula. What else?
Yeah, I feel like it's just a fear of destroying the relationship or, breaking the relationship.
Yeah, it's a risk, isn't it? Could be a big risk. What else? There's one, I'll throw one in about, there's a concern about hurting the other person. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to be damaged. I don't want, there's the relationship piece, but also what's going to be the impact on that other person, right?
We've got some more chat responses. Anna shares not enough confidence in your own opinion.
Oh, that's a good one. Yep.
Wendy adds also any tension that already exists in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Rochelle adds, don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Mhm.
Lana shares, maybe they sense it won't make a difference or create change. Also, the lack of training on how to give that feedback.
Yeah. These are brilliant. Excellent. So we have on the one hand, all these rich, valuable reasons why it's so good to get it. And then on the other, all of this like high stake, what if it goes wrong? And what could be the damage that's done from this? So what I want to invite, and we'll capture all that and we'll send this all out to you. What I want to invite you to do now, you've got a little paper and pen next to you, hopefully, is just score yourself. Nobody else is going to see this. How well do you think you give feedback on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is, I don't even do it. I am that bad at it. I faff around. And a 10 is, no, I'm pretty good. So honestly, mark yourself on that scale. And I don't have a second slide that shows the same scale. It's the same scale, but a different question. Question is, how open are you to receiving feedback? Where 1 is, gosh, I notice I'm pretty defensive every single time. And 10 is, no, I actively go out and seek feedback after everything that I do. And then the question I want to ask is, and I know it can depend on who's giving the feedback. Just bring to mind, in giving feedback, what would you like to be better at? What part of it would you like to improve? And just jot a few words down for yourself if you would. Okay. So let's move now into mindsets and giving feedback. The whole intention of feedback is to enhance the other person's either sense of self, awareness of self, or capability in doing something. So the purpose is to get better. Okay. And if you begin to look at yourself as, I'm a coach, right? I'm here to help, rather than, I have an emotional charge and I'm going to give this person feedback about it, but rather, you know what? What is your intention? In other words, what's your mindset? If it really is for the benefit of the other person, you're already in a great space. So the talent in being, one of the components in being talented at giving feedback is to develop a muscle and becoming focused on somebody else. So let me give an example of this. You're in a work situation, you're doing your work, that person's doing their work, your combined effort is to deliver something for a customer or a client. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, overall, how did we do? And if you're the manager, you may be looking at the final result being, how did this impact the client? And then you go forward. But but stopping and watching your people along the way, like what is it that they're doing really well? And just start to make mental notes about that will start to impact, like, how would I give feedback to this other person, right? Getting very clear and specific about what do you appreciate about what the other person has done that's made this better? Are they clear in their communication? Are they charming? Are they organized? Are they detail focused? What is it about what they're doing is successful? So if I know I'm going to be giving feedback to someone from the get-go, I take notes from the beginning of the session, because at the end of the meeting or the event or whatever, I'm going to be tired. It's the last thing that's going to happen that's really going to be more present with me. And I could well forget what happened at the beginning. And so I just scribble little notes about, oh, I want to remind them, like, you did that really well, or, next time I'd like you to do this differently or whatever, but actually take notes, invaluable. All right. And somebody said, I think, Nicole, you said this, like that somebody believed in you, and Tracy, yours was also a great example, where people saw something in you that you hadn't even seen in yourself. And if you're a manager, if you're the type of manager who has faith in their people, your people are going to feel and sense that, and they're going to respond to that more, as opposed to coming in as a critic about the person from the get-go. I mean, I know I've had people in my life who said, no, you can do that. You've got that. And it isn't like general cheerleading, but I could sense somebody thinks they really think I really can do that. Right. And then that does increase my confidence. So what I would invite you to look at is, if you were, as I said, look at yourself as a coach and a mentor. There is not a high-performing athlete in any major sport that doesn't have a coach. And that at the end of every game, that player doesn't come off the field or pitch or whatever, and the coach says to him, you did this well, this well, this well, this well. You have to spend more time on this, because the person wants to get better. Whether you're, I'm going to date myself as far as the athletes I'm about to name, but if you're Tiger Woods, if you're LeBron James, if you are whatever, let me tell you, they're paying people to give them feedback. That's how important it is to them. And none of us, I mean, if I'm looking at, you're the best in the world and you still need feedback, right? I want to be that person. I want to be better in my field. I want to be getting feedback from other people. So come into the space as, and one of the people commented, like, is my opinion really of value? It's your opinion. Absolutely, it's of value. And I want to hear it. So I now want to, any questions about this?
No, I just have an observation, if I may. This is Paula.
Sure. Hi, Paul.
Just to say that, you know, in the case of the athletes, I think one of the difference is that the athlete is there to get better and better and better, and is willing and interested and needs the feedback. And so there's a kind of a deeper relationship between the coach and the athlete that's a little bit more personal, but there's a clear investment in the person's performance that's solidifying that relationship. Whereas in a workplace, there's less of a there may be less of a personal connection. And, you know, people have their little walls around them in the workplace, like they just don't know how to behave, or they don't know what's right or what's wrong. And so it's not quite as smooth, that receptivity to feedback in the workplace, I feel.
Yeah, I take your point. And one of the things you know, that I'm talking about this generally now, you know, so the work that I do is leadership development. That's my full-time job right now. And I work with a cadre of mentors, and we're mentoring CEO, CFO, CEO, we're mentoring the senior people and saying, you know, because they want to get better. You know, they've got shareholders that they have to respond to. They have thousands of employees that they're responsible for. And so their leadership matters. And there is a, you know, top-down approach. And how do we support our people in developing them and upskilling them and improving our product and getting better. And it's just a matter of, I'm going to make the time to sit down with my people on a regular basis and give feedback, and not do it once a year in a performance review. Right? Because, you know, what I did 10 months ago, it's like, you couldn't tell me that then. I mean, I don't even remember that. So having a cadence, a regular cadence of giving feedback, I think is something that people can make a commitment to. And the other thing that I've learned in my work with companies and corporate cultures is those organizations that have a culture of feedback, you get past the stigma after a while. I mean, I got into this because two of my business partners, we worked on a project for 3 years, and we were traveling all over the country together, and we're working for a global investment firm. And the three of us would collect data and whatever and meet and present. And after every single meeting, the three of us would sit down and say, what did you do well, and what have you got to improve? And it's like, I realized they're not attacking me. What they're looking at is, what action did I do that next time I should be better at? So I think it's just about you as a manager making the commitment to your people. Okay. How am I doing on time? Okay, we're doing good. What I want to do now is I want to move into the how.
Hi, can I contribute 2 cents?
Please. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, yes, sorry. I'm just kind of lying down right now because I'm tired. But so I'm really indulging in the lunch part of this. But anyway, just want to say, I feel like, nowadays even within the home, that there's a culture of like positivity where that can get confused with feedback. And a lot of times people will say like, oh, nice, thanks, you're doing a great job, I really appreciate this, but they won't give you the constructive criticism. They won't give you the other flip side. And so I kind of the thing is like, where can we, encourage our supervisors or whatever to do that more? Because sometimes I feel like I'm not getting any feedback. It's just the positive feedback, and it's very vague. And then when negative feedback is given, sometimes, it's only in the most critical or dire situations when you really messed up. So, so that's kind of something that I've encountered, in my workplace the past few years. It's like, everything's hunky dory. And then if you have a huge mess up, you'll get negative feedback, but you won't get anything in between.
Yeah. And Lauren, I think that is true for millions of people and employees. It's like, why aren't they giving me the feedback? Why aren't they being upfront with me? And it goes back to all the reasons we say, why don't people give feedback? They're not comfortable delivering it. They're afraid of what's going to happen. They don't want to damage the person, the relationship. So in response to your comment, my recommendation is you go to your supervisors and you say, look, I am hungry for feedback. Please, I want a relationship where if you see something you want me to do differently, or you think I can improve, then I want you to let me know, and remind them. Because it does take a while for some people to get more comfortable with the fact that you really mean it and you want to go it. So it's about being proactive in that situation. Okay, any other questions or comments before we move forward? I appreciate all this interruption, by the way. Oh, she gave a heart signal. All right. So what are the successful mechanics of how to give feedback? All right, let's start. So the first, use I statements. There is nothing worse than if somebody approaches me and says, you know, we are not happy with your work. It's like, who's we? You know, well, don't want to give names. And already I'm in a field of doubt. I'm suspicious. I'm wondering. I'm panicked. I statements. And you can, and also as opposed to coming in with, well, we think this, which makes you think we've got, you know, that presents a stronger argument. What it does is it undermines it. And the other thing is, if somebody wants to share something with me and goes, you did this and you did that and you whatever, it's like, shields up, people. You know, if there's that accusatory tone. So if somebody comes to me and says, I observed this, I didn't like that, I want this, I want that, I can handle that much more easily. That it's they're taking responsibility. It's their experience, not the global experience. So that's number one. When you're giving feedback, I would like you to, I. Second thing, and I know that this may sound obvious, but please look at the person while you're doing it and lean forward. You know, there's, you know, if the lean back, cross your arms and look away, I'm panicked, right? As opposed to there's a sense of heart and connection if you're more present, if you lean into the conversation. So eye contact. This next one, this is particularly true for women, is get to the point. Don't say, you know, well, you know, I've been afraid to say this to you and I've wondered, and I just think you're so great and you're such a rock star. You know, there are very few Taylor Swift is a rock star. I am not a rock star. Please just say, here's what I saw, here's what I would like. I'm much more accepting of that. And I think, Julie, you were the one that said, giving and receiving feedback creates trust. If I know you're going to tell me the truth, and I think, Lauren, this goes to what you were saying, you know, the hold back, if I know that you're open with me, then I can breathe more deeply and freely. So just watch out that you don't start off with, you know, I just think you're the most or the best or the whatever, because it's a setup. That's what it feels like to me. You can be direct. Another one, this can also be woman is like, you know, I really don't want to have to do this, or they're making me do it, or I'm only doing this because it's that whole minimalization part also is a diminishment of the feedback. You can own what your opinion is and what you'd like to see happen and not happen, right? And the last thing is around understanding that the other person is probably they're coming into it thinking they've done the best that they could do. And if you can, just take a moment and put yourself in their shoes. There may be circumstances or situations that we're not aware of that's happening with that person. It's very easy to judge somebody, but to go from there. All right. one construct on giving feedback to consider is thinking, instead of looking at it as feedback, look at it as feed forward. And oftentimes when something negative happens, you know, I will get emotionally upset. I will be frustrated. I'll be irritated. I'll be you know, whatever, fill in the blank. And I want to vent. I want to let that out. And bad feedback, people will vent and let it know, let the other person know they weren't happy. Is that constructive? Not always the case. Instead, if you look at what do you want me to do next time, rather than what did I do bad this time? So I had one of my business partners said to me, the content is great, but you have to speak more loudly. Next time, just like amp up your voice, because you're talking to 100 people and right now only the first 50 can hear you. It's like, I can do that, right? You can put your hands around something. So what do you want to have happen? Feed forward, not feedback. Okay. I want to move now. Any questions about that?
I have a question, Joan. Just thinking about how to approach someone, I had heard before that it's good to ask permission, especially if you're giving constructive feedback. So, hey, do you mind if if I provide some feedback for you? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it looks like I paid you to move into my next slide, which is, how do you, that was so good. How do you set up the conversation? So the first thing you want to do is ask the person, is this a good time? Right. And it gives them a sense of control also, right? And if they say, actually, no, I'm running out the door, I've got something else I have to deliver. Great. Okay. The end of the world isn't going to come. So you wait until the time is right. And then preface the conversation by saying, would you be willing to let me explain all the way through before you respond? And then I will give you all the time you want to answer. Because what sometimes happens is somebody will start to give me a piece of feedback, let's say, and I want to defend myself. No, my intention wasn't that. And I'll start cutting them off and I'm like, wait a minute, just let me finish. So that's your setup at the beginning of the conversation. Okay. Now, here's the start. How did you think you did? Let them do the heavy lifting. So if you're a manager and you've got an employee and they've done a presentation or they've delivered whatever, and afterwards sit down with them and just say, so give yourself a review. Like, how did you think you did? Kind of thing. And you'll be amazed at how often they'll say, oh, I completely fluffed that. Oh, I wish I had done this. Oh, I realized later I whatever. And so that might take that responsibility of delivering something that you might think would be difficult to say to somebody else. So let them speak first, right? And then you start with the positives. And this is not about don't make a sandwich, positive, negative, positive. That's not necessarily the formula. But if I know my CEO appreciates or likes how I do this, this, and this, I know he's been paying attention to me and he's not just in an emotional reaction about a moment. Right? Because you want to feel at the end of it that the person's going to walk out feeling cared for and advanced. It's advanced is the thing. And I think, and I can't remember who it was who talked about the reinforcing the positive behaviors. Crucial. Like eliminate my doubt. If somebody said, wow, you knocked that, your deck of slides were, they were colorful, they were inspiring, they were clear, like, okay, I'm doing this right. So I'll do more of that next time. It's crucial to hear what it is that the person has done well. And the other thing is, and about the gets the person listening, it's like, who doesn't want to hear nice things? And so I'm willing to hear more. So that's number one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you an approach of how to give touchy feedback. And it's called the DESK technique. It's an acronym. So the D is describe the situation. All of this is in I form, by the way. I saw, I did. So it's facts, figures. It's the reality of the situation. That's the D. The E is the emotion part. How did it make me feel? All right. So D, E. The S is say what you want. And the K is know the consequences. So I'll give you an example. I have a home in Pahoa and I work a lot. And so cleaning my house, I'd love to have somebody come and clean my house. And so I found somebody that I think is the best cleaner on this island. I love her. She's the best cleaner there is, and she's also the most unreliable. And more often than not, on the morning she's supposed to come, I will get a text with some reason that she can't come. And I am a very scheduled person. And so this is not happy for me. So I debated this because, oh my gosh, the thought of losing her and having to find somebody else here was really hard. But it got to the point where I can't do this anymore. So she came over one day and the setup where Patty, it was just like, I said, there's something I want to share with you. Is this a good time to talk? Yes. Were you willing to let me express my thoughts from beginning to end? And then I want to hear everything that you have to think and say. Yes. And so I said, what I've seen is over the last I'll make this up, 6 weeks, 4 of those weeks, I've gotten text early in the morning saying that you're not going to come, here are all the facts and figures. So 4 of the 6 times you didn't show up, what it did for me was it not only frustrated me, but it disappointed me because it leaves me wondering, what am I going to do? Because I have people coming over, whatever. And I said, what I want to have happen is to create a schedule that works for you in such a way that you will regularly be able to come. And if you cannot come, that you're able to offer me a fairly quick alternative, shortly after that. And then I held my breath. I mean, the consequences was she could leave. So what I want to invite you to do now with yourselves, bring someone to mind. And take this few minutes, just make some notes right now. Who is it you want to talk to? What's the issue? What are they doing well? What would you like to see them do differently? Be specific, not be a better communicator, like specifically, what do you want them to do? And then I'm going to invite you to put down a date by which you will have done it. Will you do this today? Will you do it by the end of this week? Will you do it by Christmas? what's your date so that you commit to yourself to do it? And if you are a boss, well, you don't have to be a boss for this one either. But often in delivering difficult messages, what can hold us back is we want to be liked. And the question to ask yourself is, do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? And that the big plus on the other side of this is trust. That if I know that you're one of those people who's going to tell me the truth and be honest with me, not hurtful, but honest with me, that's the kind of connection I want in my life. All right. Questions, comments?
That was so good. Thank you so much, Joan. I really appreciated it because especially the setup and a lot of the cues that you gave us for how to preface the conversation, I think are really important.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
I just had a question.
Coming from you, that's great. Hi, Megan.
Hi. I just had a question about the how do you think you did setup part of it. Like for me, that kind of feels like a trap. Like if someone was going to say that to me, well, how do you think you did? And so I know it's like probably about like the approach or the tone of voice or whatever. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
I think if I know that the person's coming from an objective interest of like, well, how do you think you did? I mean, what did you like about what you did? What would you do differently? And just demonstrating respect for the other person's thinking and opinion, I think that would be really helpful for me. But it has to be authentic. It has to be genuine. Does that answer, Megan?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I also, it's interesting, like I'm coming from Canada. I don't know if there are other Canadians on here. I'm from the West Coast of Canada, but some of these things I think are like culturally different. So that's just like an interesting little observation that I'm having. Like some of this, I'm like, oh, interesting.
And Nicole is from Canada, I know, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Vancouver originally, but live in Hawaii now. Nice to meet you, Megan.
I'm on Vancouver Island where it's very, very rainy and dark. Okay, thanks.
Joan, I have a question from Wendy. She'd like to know, what is your advice if the feedback comes via email and then there is not an opportunity to discuss with the person for a period of time? I had that happen to me very recently. I did not receive the feedback well, but had no opportunity to talk through it for a week and a half after I received it.
Oh, that's just, Wendy, I feel you. That's there. I don't know the situation. Maybe there's a good reason, but I have had that happen to me, and that is such a setup. Like it's sort of gutless on the other person's part. So what do you do about it? Is just reach back out to the person immediately and say, I need to talk about this. Excuse me 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, what else? Did Wendy, does that answer? I mean,
Yeah, it's a hard situation, but yeah, what can you do, right? You're kind of in a stuck situation.
Yeah, just go back to the other person and say, look, I need to connect with you now about this sooner,
Yeah.
please.
We have another question. If you're doing these with a family member, how can you do it with the purpose of creating a personal boundary due to certain actions?
Say, repeat repeat that again for me, Shelby, please.
If you're doing these with a family member, how can you do it with the purpose of creating a personal boundary due to certain actions? So perhaps someone overstepped a boundary and you're trying to give feedback, maybe to help them establish a boundary. How would someone do that? I think that's what Cecilia is asking.
I think I need to know a little bit more detail, not getting into the personal, but I'm not quite sure what's being asked. I want to help, but I'm not sure what the person means.
Feel free to unmute yourself, Cecilia, if you'd like to give Joan a little bit more context. Yeah, to me, it sounded like if you're trying to give feedback to a family member and trying to put up that boundary, it's hard to set boundaries with family members. I mean, and how do you give that feedback and say
Super high risk.
a boundary that's been crossed without, you know, ruining a relationship?
It's tricky. I mean, it's often the case that once I am able to have the communication with one of my family members, there's a breakthrough and a release. And typically with family members, things build up and get pent up because we're together more frequently and more things bother us or whatever. But if there is something that Wendy wants to have happen, clearly, I think it's is the concern about stating it, what would happen with the boundary, or?
Really would have to chime in a little bit.
Okay.
But we do have another question from Lauren. What about feedback through text? Does that ever work with family?
You need to look, be brave, do it in person, do it face to face. It allows the other person, it's just what was said is that I'm not given the opportunity to respond back. You want the other person to be able to respond back.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Joan, I think are you ready to wrap up? You think it's okay?
Yeah, season's greetings to everybody.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so thank you so much for coming. As a reminder, please take a few minutes today to fill out our shorts online survey, which does help, again, with our grant funding for this free series. I've gone ahead and put that link in the chat one more time, and you will also receive an email with that chat, with that survey link, as well as the slides from today's presentation. So mahalo, and we will see you all next month.